Usually when we talk about human identity, there's this expectation of a kind of like linear precision.
Right, and architectural stability.
Exactly. You're born, you grow up, you gather experiences, you earn degrees, buy a house, build a life.
Yeah, the standard path.
Right. And if you look back at your personal history, the trajectory shows a clear line. Society points to that line and says, well, there it is. That is who you are.
And that's how we build civilizations, really.
Yeah. We need those verifiable checkpoints to trust someone.
It is deeply comforting.
Yeah.
I mean, we fundamentally like things to be visible, to be categorized.
Oh, definitely.
And most importantly, to be continuous. We rely on the physical evidence of a person's existence to, understand their place in the world.
But then you step into the world of unexplainable phenomenon, of profound spiritual transformation and sudden catastrophic trauma.
Right.
And suddenly that neat architectural timeline is just completely blown to pieces.
Yeah, completely obliterated.
We are looking at an identity landscape today that is spectacularly chaotic. We have in front of us a genuinely dense, genre-bending, reality-warping document.
It really is.
It's written by a man named Dr. Mukesh Chauhan. And the title of this text alone, it sets this really imposing stage. It's called Benjamin Franklin, Creator and God.
Yeah, it's a title that demands an immediate, almost jarring recalibration of your expectations.
And let me tell you, this is unlike any standard biography you have ever encountered.
Not at all.
It's not a peer-reviewed scientific paper, though. It leans really heavily on the language of advanced physics.
Right, lots of quantum terminology.
Exactly. And it's not a traditional religious scripture either, though it audaciously claims to rewrite the foundation of global spirituality.
Yeah.
What we have here is a 32-year personal, spiritual, and scientific manifesto.
32 years. That's a massive chunk of a life.
It is, and it seamlessly and honestly, sometimes violently, blends high-level oral surgery, quantum mechanics, extreme historical revisionism, and the mechanics of reincarnation.
It's a lot to take in.
It's a document where the author claims to have discovered the absolute source code of the universe, and in doing so, discovered who he used to be.
And before we delve into the specific mechanics of those claims, because the specifics are staggering in their ambition, I want to clarify the parameters of our exploration today.
Yeah, good idea. Set the ground rules.
Our mission today is not to play historical fact-checker.
Right.
We aren't going to pull out standard history books to cross-reference his timelines, nor are we going to, dial up a particle physicist at CERN to verify his equations regarding subatomic structures.
That would just be entirely missing the point.
Exactly. Approaching a text like this with a red grading pen would be missing the point entirely.
We would just be arguing with a mirage, honestly.
Precisely. Our goal is to deeply, rigorously understand the fascinating, highly intricate, and fiercely vivid worldview constructed within the borders of this specific document. We're looking at a masterclass in how one single individual synthesizes objective science, profound personal trauma, global history, and deep spirituality into a singular, all-encompassing theory of everything.
It's the architecture of a highly unique mind trying to make sense of a shattered reality.
Yes.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the destination, which involves, the drafting of the American Constitution, the secret geometry of the U.S. dollar bill, and the hidden layers of black holes, we have to start with the man in his original, highly grounded reality.
Right, the physical baseline.
We have to start with the surgeon.
So the early life of Dr. Chauhan, as detailed in the text, is deeply rooted in the empirical physical world, yet it carries this lingering, profound curiosity.
Okay.
He describes his youth in London right around the age of 14 or 15. And he wasn't your typical teenager playing sports or worrying about local social dynamics.
What was he doing?
He was heavily invested in daily meditation, reading the dense works of great philosophers, and devouring copies of Scientific American and New Scientist.
Oh, wow. So he had this dual track running from the very beginning, like the yoga, the stillness, the internal exploration on one side, and the hard, observable, mathematically sound sciences on the other.
Exactly. And this duality really came to a head during his undergraduate years. He was studying at the University College Hospital, part of University College London.
A highly prestigious institution.
Very rigorous. The text describes him as a young undergraduate in anatomy sessions, dissecting human cadavers.
Okay, picture the sheer tactile reality of that for a second. You are a young medical student.
Yeah.
You have a cold steel scalpel in your hand. The smell of formaldehyde is just burning your nose.
It's intense.
You're literally taking apart the human machine layer by layer, muscle by muscle, tracing the physical wiring of the nervous system.
Right.
It is the ultimate exercise in physical reality. Materialism at its absolute peak. But what is he thinking about while he is, pulling back the fascia?
He's obsessively questioning the metaphysical.
Of course he is.
While physically dismantling the body, he's asking himself, where does the Atma go? The soul.
Wow.
He wanted to know what happens to the soul after clinical death, where it resides, and how the mechanics of rebirth actually function.
I mean, medical school is designed to instill the idea that memory is just synaptic firing, right? That life is just biological chemistry.
Exactly. But for Chauhan, peeling back those physical layers just intensified the mystery. He is looking for the ghost in the machine while holding the dismantled machine in his own hands.
It's a striking juxtaposition. But despite these deep, lingering philosophical questions, he doesn't abandon his medical training to run off to an ashram.
No, not at all.
He leans hard into the physical world. He achieves what society would universally consider the absolute pinnacle of worldly success.
Yeah, he becomes a highly qualified oral surgeon based in London.
We're talking about complex, high-stakes procedures here. Implant surgery, intricate bone grafting.
And this context is vital. He wasn't living on the fringes of society. He wasn't a marginal figure theorizing in isolation. He was entrenched in elite medical circles.
The document highlights his extensive professional reach, doesn't it?
Yeah, he was undertaking and teaching courses for qualified clinicians alongside an American professor at the Central Middlesex Hospital,
Oh, wow.
who was flying to France, Italy, and Switzerland for advanced postgraduate work. He was even in the process of writing a clinical textbook.
So the physical proof of his success was just everywhere.
Everywhere.
He had multiple degrees, over 50 international certifications. He drove a BMW and then upgraded to a
A
Mercedes.
very comfortable life.
He lived in a massive property.
Yeah.
He was living the high-flying, financially secure lifestyle of a scientifically grounded medical professional in one of the most prominent cities in the world.
Right. He had mastered the physical domain completely.
And that absolute mastery of the physical domain is exactly what sets the stage for the inciting incident of his entire 32-year odyssey. The catalyst happens right in the middle of his element, in the environment he controls the most, the surgical theater.
He refers to it as the quantum shift.
The quantum shift.
According to the narrative, Chauhan was performing a complex bone grafting surgery in his London clinic. He considered himself exceptionally skilled at this procedure. It was routine for him.
Okay.
But suddenly, something goes terribly wrong. He is faced with heavy, profuse bleeding from the patient that simply will not stop.
Oh, man. That is a surgeon's absolute nightmare.
It really is.
Put yourself in that room, the rhythmic beeping of the monitor suddenly speeding up, the sterile lights reflecting off the blood,
Back.
the creeping panic setting in among the assisting nurses. His hands, which have trained for years to fix any physical problem, are suddenly failing to control the hydraulic pressure of the human circulatory system.
Right, the physics of the body are working against him.
And then the text says the unexplainable happened.
In that moment of sheer crisis, Chauhan states that a voice rang out, an external, distinct voice. And instantaneously, miraculously, the bleeding simply stopped.
Just stopped.
The text implies it wasn't a gradual slowing due to coagulation, it was an instantaneous cessation.
Wow.
And this voice, whatever its origin, said something to him that completely shattered his empirical trajectory, propelling him on a massive, consuming search for God.
Okay, hold on. We need to pause right here.
Sure.
Because as someone reading this, my immediate reaction is, how does a surgeon with that much rigorous training just accept that a ghost clamped the artery?
It's a huge leap.
Doesn't his medical training scream for a rationalization? Doesn't the scientific mind immediately go, oh, the local anesthetic with epinephrine finally constricted the blood vessels?
Right.
Or I must have inadvertently applied exactly the right amount of pressure to the supplying artery without realizing it. How do you go from a strange moment in surgery directly to a 32-year search for the divine?
What's fascinating here is how this event perfectly maps onto the psychological crowbar of high-stakes stress.
The psychological crowbar? I like that.
In clinical psychology, we often see that in moments of extreme life-or-death pressure, like the potential of losing a patient on the operating table, the human mind can become incredibly porous.
Like it just breaks open.
Exactly. The intense pressure pries open the mind to possibilities it would normally violently reject. He was at the limit of his scientific capability, and the solution appeared to arrive from outside that capability.
Okay.
But the text also provides context that he had been primed for this. There were prior supernatural warnings leading up to this surgery that he admits he did rationalize and ignore.
Right, the warnings. The document mentions a local Christian priest who was actually one of Chauhan's dental patients.
Yes, this priest allegedly experienced a God-inspired vision specifically about Chauhan
While in the dental chair.
while in the chair, and he didn't keep it to himself, he told Chauhan right there in the surgery. The priest informed Chauhan that he had come down to earth specifically to do God's work.
That's a heavy thing to hear from your patient.
But it wasn't just a blessing, it was a dire warning. The priest told him that a lot of people were deeply jealous of his rapid success and his wealth, and that he needed to be incredibly careful because forces were aligning against him.
And Chauhan's reaction at the time, he's refreshingly honest about it in the text.
What does he say?
He says, I ignored the warning. He admits he had the arrogance of success. He was a wealthy surgeon. Why would he worry about the spiritual visions of a patient sitting in his dental chair?
He was insulated.
Completely insulated by his bank account and his medical degrees.
But the quantum shift during the bone grafting surgery obliterated that insulation. It was an undeniable, visceral experience that his years at University College London couldn't explain.
Yeah.
He realized he was suddenly interacting with forces far beyond the physical anatomy he had memorized. However, the document makes it painfully, excruciatingly clear that answering this spiritual call did not lead him straight into a peaceful state of enlightenment or like a quiet monastery.
No, not at all. In fact, acknowledging this calling seemed to trigger the absolute catastrophic collapse of everything he had built.
Yeah.
It initiated a 14-year period of almost unimaginable systematic hardship.
The transition from the absolute peak of his London career to his lowest possible point begins with another warning.
Okay.
This time, it wasn't from a priest, but received internally during his own meditation. He had a strong premonition to be careful while driving in London because, as the text states, there was an active plan to kill him.
A plan to kill him.
And shortly after receiving this internal alarm, he was involved in a massive head-on collision while driving his BMW.
His luxury car was completely written off, and he barely survived the impact.
Yeah.
This crash served as the terrifying gateway. It forced him to ask, who up in heaven likes me enough to warn me?
Yeah.
But it also introduced him to the reality of what he calls dark energies.
Right.
He realizes he hasn't just stepped into a realm of benevolent angels. He is entering a very different, very dangerous, invisible war zone.
The text delves into some incredibly dark and unsettling claims regarding this unseen world. Chauhan asserts that his ongoing quest led him to a highly spiritually evolved person who peeled back the curtain on the clandestine workings of evil spirits.
This is where it gets really dark.
We are talking about allegations of complex dark rituals, malicious spirits being intentionally planted by jealous enemies to destroy people's lives.
Wow.
And even claims that world-famous personalities are frequently murdered by these invisible forces without leaving a single trace of physical evidence for the police to find.
The details get intensely specific, almost cinematic in their horror. He describes discovering that evil people perform blood sacrifices using animals and birds.
Yes.
And he claims they do this specifically behind the crosses in cemeteries and not just one type of cemetery.
Yep, global network.
Yeah, he lists a global network of dark sites, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, and Black cemeteries across London, France, Mauritius, and India.
It is a vision of a hidden global spiritual mafia, a network of dark mechanics manipulating the physical world.
A spiritual mafia.
And Chauhan explicitly states in the text that when he saw this, he found the work utterly revolting and filthy. He refused to have any part of it.
He didn't want to fight fire with fire.
Exactly. He refused to dirty his hands by engaging in this dark warfare. But he notes that this very refusal, this moral stand, made him a massive target.
Because he wouldn't play their game.
Right. He found himself utterly defenseless against unseen forces that were intent on dismantling his life.
And the casualty of that invisible war was literal everything he owned, everything that tethered him to society. Let's talk about the total ruin, because the scale of his material loss over these 14 years is hard to wrap your head around.
It's staggering.
This wasn't just a run of bad luck. This wasn't a poor investment. This reads like a systematic, bureaucratic, and financial execution.
Methodical, relentless, and absolute. The document lists an exhausting litany of legal battles. He wasn't just fighting a neighbor in a local small claims court.
No.
He was embroiled in complex cases spanning the entire British and European legal hierarchy simultaneously. He lists fighting in the district courts, the county courts, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, the House of Lords, and even elevating cases to the European Court of Human Rights.
Just imagine the sheer psychological attrition of that. Waking up every single day for over a decade and your only reality is another stack of hostile legal correspondence, another court date, another financial drain.
Yeah, he's fighting powerful banks, maneuvering through complex accountant errors, battling tax disputes, mortgage issues, road accident claims.
But the most devastating physical blow detailed in the text is the loss of his property. He owned a massive 13-room house in London, a physical fortress of his success.
Right.
He claims that despite having a high court stay and explicit legal order preventing possession, an American company, GE Money, unlawfully bypassed the law, repossessed his home, and undersold it.
Wow.
He states this singular event lost him over £1 million in hard equity and that the system simply refused to return his money.
But it wasn't just the monetary loss of the real estate that broke him. It was the total callous erasure of his past. The document states that when he finally returned to London after recovering from a severe accident in India, the contents of those 13 rooms had simply been thrown away.
Thrown away.
Thrown in the trash.
This is the part of the narrative that really hit me in the chest. Think about your own home right now. Think about the drawer where you keep your passport, your diplomas, the physical photographs of your family.
Yeah.
Now imagine returning home and finding out every single thing that proves you are who you say you are is sitting in a landfill.
That's horrifying.
He lost £50,000 worth of specialized surgical equipment. But more importantly, his multiple university degrees and over 50 international medical certifications. Gone. Thrown in the trash. The literal paper trail of his identity was erased.
He describes himself as becoming the most qualified beggar in India.
The most qualified beggar? That's a haunting phrase.
He was rendered homeless, completely jobless, and entirely penniless. He had the knowledge of a master surgeon locked in his head, but absolutely zero ability to prove it to the world.
And as if losing his physical identity wasn't enough, the text claims he began to lose his internal identity as well.
Right, his memory.
He talks about the Mauritius incident. He went to Mauritius to help a Hindu priestess with a major temple project, seeking spiritual refuge, only to discover later, as he claims the creator revealed to him, that she was secretly working against him.
A betrayal.
He states that dark energies and evil individuals completely destroyed his brain and his memory during this period. It was so severe, so debilitating, that it took him 9 agonizing years just to remember the simple fact that he used to own a Mercedes back in London.
9 years. Add to that the relentless physical toll. The text mentions that during this 14-year period, he survived 6 near-fatal road traffic accidents. He also describes fires that mysteriously started in his property, purportedly meant to burn him alive while he slept.
So, as a reader, you have to ask yourself why. Why does this specific narrative necessitate this level of total apocalyptic destruction of his physical life?
That's a fair question.
A man goes from being an elite, wealthy surgeon jet-setting across Europe to a homeless man sitting in the dirt in India who can't even remember his own car. It is a terrifying descent.
If we look at this through the lens of spiritual traditions and psychology, what we are seeing described here is the ultimate grueling dark night of the soul.
Okay.
It is an extreme, forced ego death. In almost all mystical traditions, from Christian asceticism to Sufi mysticism to Hindu renunciation, to receive absolute, unadulterated cosmic truth, the vessel must first be entirely emptied.
Empty the cup.
Exactly. The human ego, the worldly identity, the attachments to status and wealth, they must be burned away. Stripped of his wealth, his professional status, his home, his tangible achievements, and eventually even the neural pathways of his own memory, the London surgeon simply ceased to exist.
Wow.
Chauhan was forced into a stark, empty corner where he had to rebuild his identity entirely from within.
And rebuild it he did, but he didn't try to rebuild a London surgeon.
No.
He didn't try to claw his way back to the Central Middlesex Hospital. He rebuilt something entirely cosmic.
Yeah, a total paradigm shift.
He writes about sitting on the hard floor in India, enduring 42-degree centigrade heat. That's about 107 degrees Fahrenheit.
Unbearable.
No fan, no air conditioning. He describes taking 6 cold showers a day just to keep his core temperature down and survive the heat, meditating intensely and daily from 3 a.m.
He was distilling himself.
Yeah.
Under that intense physical and psychological pressure, he was searching for what he calls the ultimate supreme power, the creator who is not bound by the physical constraints of time, space, or human causation.
And he states that after 14 years of this agonizing, stripping search, he finally pierced the veil. He found exactly what he was looking for.
This brings us to the profound culmination of his hardship, and the precise moment the entire scope of the document changes from a tragedy of loss to a manifesto of cosmic discovery.
The pivot.
He claims he had a direct vision of God. And here is a fascinating, highly specific theological distinction he makes. He realizes that the Creator, which he equates with absolute infinity and God, are actually two distinct entities.
Oh, interesting. So they aren't the same.
Yes, that is a very specific, almost dualistic cosmological framework. He separates the architect of the universe from the spiritual figurehead.
Okay.
And upon making this massive discovery, he doesn't just write a quiet memoir about his realization. He claims he was directly instructed to write a completely new Gita.
A new Gita.
In fact, he writes 2 separate volumes. The first volume focuses entirely on the complete scientific mathematical works of the Creator, and the second volume focuses on the spiritual domain of God.
And it is through this deep connection, this ultimate spiritual breakthrough in the heat of India, that the vault of his past lives is finally cracked open. The text says his past lives are coded in his QC consciousness, a quantum concept we will absolutely dig into shortly. But the initial revelation is mind-bending. He discovers that he is the exact same soul, the exact reincarnation of Lord Krishna from 5,000 years ago,
Lord Krishna.
the very entity who spoke the original Bhagavad Gita.
The religious implications of that singular claim are monumental. To claim to be the author of one of the most sacred texts in human history is audacious.
It really is.
He describes this personal evolution as a journey starting from the I am state, the state of prophetic realization associated with figures like Moses and Jesus, moving all the way to the ultimate absolute realization of I am God.
Wow.
And he claims this isn't just a feeling. It is backed by what he calls verifiable scientific proof from the quantum level. He is positioning himself not just as a follower of the divine, but as the continuous recurring thread of divine revelation throughout all of human history.
But the document doesn't stop at ancient religious figures. If it did, it would be a relatively standard, if extreme, spiritual claim. But this is where the historical claims simply explode off the page and bend the genre of the text entirely. Because in his journey to uncover the files of his coded past lives, he finds out he wasn't just an ancient Eastern deity.
Who else was he?
He was also an 18th century Western scientist, politician, and American freedom fighter wandering the streets of Philadelphia.
Yes. Dr. Mukesh Chauhan claims, with absolute certainty, that he was, in a past life, Benjamin Franklin.
Okay, I want you, the listener, to try a thought experiment with me.
Okay.
Imagine walking into a library, opening a heavy history book, reading about the founding of a nation, the creation of its bedrock laws, the bloody wars fought for its independence, and suddenly having a profound, unshakable realization that you are the one who did it.
Right.
You wrote those words. You funded those armies. It is a staggering level of psychological identification with world history.
And what makes it so compelling to read is how incredibly specific he is about his actions as Benjamin Franklin. He isn't just claiming a vague association with the era. He is actively, aggressively rewriting the standard historical narrative of the founding of the United States.
Utterly rewriting it, placing himself at the absolute center of every major event. Let's look at the exact claims in the text. He states that as Franklin, he was the sole individual to sign all 4 major American legal documents that birthed the nation: the British Treaty of Peace, the Treaty of Alliance with France, the Declaration of Independence, and the United States Constitution.
All 4.
He claims he was the primary financial backer of George Washington, paying for the fight for independence out of his own pocket.
Funding the war.
Yeah. He says the only reason he refused to take up the presidency of the new nation was because his primary goal was to abolish slavery, and the political climate wouldn't allow it. He even makes sure to note that he owned a highly influential printing press in Philadelphia.
But his claims go far beyond just participating in the political founding. He claims authorship of America's most iconic, deeply embedded symbolic elements. Like what's most stunningly, he asserts that he personally designed the American dollar bill. and specifically the Great Seal on the backs of the pyramid. He claims that he actually met God in that past life. That's Franklin. And he included that divine encounter in the design of the dollar bill, giving us the phrase, "In God we trust."
He goes deeper into the symbolism, too, stating there was a hidden scientific mystery of two pyramids intersecting within human consciousness, and that the glowing eye floating above the pyramid on the dollar bill is quite literally designed to see God.
Yeah.
But out of all the claims, here's the one that really made me stop and reread the page several times. He talks about the drafting of the Constitution in Philadelphia.
This part is wild.
He claims he originally asked Thomas Jefferson to write it, just to save time going back and forth with drafts. But then, when he read Jefferson's draft, he says he personally crossed out Jefferson's first line and wrote these exact words in his own hand. "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal."
He claims absolute ownership of arguably the most famous resonant sentence in American political history. He even challenges the reader, stating that if you look at the original physical parchment of the document, you will see a single line canceled out and his words written over it.
No, wait, hold on. As someone who loves history, I have to challenge the basic logistics of this.
Sure.
Historically, we know that the phrase, "we hold these truths to be self-evident," belongs to the Declaration of Independence, which was primarily drafted by Thomas Jefferson, not the Constitution.
Right.
And while it is historically true that Benjamin Franklin did sign the Declaration, the treaty with France, the Treaty of Paris, and the Constitution making him the only founding father to sign all four Chauhan's narrative, seems to aggressively consolidate the monumental achievements, the famous quotes, and the primary documents of multiple distinct historical figures into his single Benjamin Franklin persona.
Yeah, that's what he's doing.
He is blending Jefferson's pen with Franklin's presence.
That merging of historical facts is exactly what we need to analyze. If we connect this to the bigger picture of his worldview, the strict factual historical timeline is far less important to the author than the immense symbolic resonance of the figure of Benjamin Franklin.
Okay, symbolic resonance. Explain that.
Think about what Franklin represents in the global consciousness. He is the ultimate Western polymath, a groundbreaking scientist discovering electricity, a shrewd diplomat, a philosopher, a prolific writer, and inventor. By claiming this specific identity, Chauhan is creating a perfect Western mirror to his Eastern identity as Krishna.
Oh, I see what you're saying. He's achieving a kind of hemispheric dominance over history.
Exactly.
Krishna is the ultimate spiritual guide, the author of the divine song, the Gita, the foundation of Eastern mysticism. Franklin is the pragmatic architect of democratic liberty and empirical Western scientific thought.
Precisely. It is a breathtakingly ambitious synthesis of global history and human thought. It provides a perfect symmetrical explanation for his own dual nature in his current life.
His dual nature.
Yes, his rigorous medical scientific mind as a London surgeon and his profound, unexplainable spiritual visions in the heat of India. To him, they aren't contradictions. They're the synchronized echoes of Franklin and Krishna, resonating perfectly through his current QC consciousness.
But Chauhan didn't just claim to have written the foundational laws of a nation in a past life. The text pivots violently from history back to the present day. Because he claims that in this life, through his meditation and trauma, he has discovered the foundational laws of the universe itself.
Right.
And he doesn't use the language of ancient mystics to describe it. He uses the dense, bleeding-edge vocabulary of modern quantum physics.
This is a critical transition in the document. The narrative moves from historical revisionism into deeply esoteric, highly mathematical quantum mechanics.
And he frames this by creating a fascinating, slightly combative contrast between his internal methods and the methods of mainstream, highly funded science.
Yeah, he takes aim at big science.
He writes about places like CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research in Switzerland, where the Large Hadron Collider is located. He notes that 10,000 of the world's leading scientists go physically underground into massive 27-kilometer circular tunnels to smash subatomic particles together at the speed of light, desperately looking outward into the physical universe to find the God particle.
And Chauhan's critique is that they are looking in the wrong direction. The text states that while they built physical tunnels, he continued in a deeper tunnel internally inside his human brain.
Inside his brain.
He claims to have bypassed physical machinery entirely, going through internal neural tunnels and cosmic wormholes through deep meditation to reach the other side, moving from darkness to light.
And the list of discoveries he claims to have pulled out of that internal tunnel is exhaustive. It reads like a cosmic catalog.
Let's hear some of them.
He says he found the core mechanism, the quantum code, or QC. He defines this QC as the actual literal source code of life and the universe. It's the secure server where all universal information, including the detailed records of every human's past lives, is permanently stored.
He borrows the heavy vocabulary of advanced physics, but radically applies it to his mystical visions. For instance, he claims to have visually witnessed triple quantum entanglement.
Triple entanglement.
Now, in standard physics, quantum entanglement is a phenomenon where two particles become linked, and the state of one instantly influences the state of the other, regardless of distance. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance.
Right.
Chauhan is claiming to have witnessed a triple entanglement, implying a vastly more complex, perhaps divine synchronization of matter.
He also claims to have seen all 11 dimensions described in string theory. Just to give some context, string theory is a theoretical framework in physics where the point-like particles of particle physics are replaced by one-dimensional objects called strings. How these strings vibrate determines the properties of the particle.
It's extremely complex.
It usually requires extra dimensions of spacetime for mathematical consistency. Chauhan is saying he didn't just calculate these dimensions, he claims he visually saw the strings themselves vibrating. He claims to have perceived the deeper, hidden layers of black holes that telescopes can't penetrate.
The scale of his visions is dizzying.
Wow.
He says he saw the entire functioning solar system contained within the human brain.
Oh.
He claims to have discovered that everything in our known universe is actually constructed from 3 hidden suns. And he even casually drops in that he observed the live 3D formation of atoms, electrons, and quarks, watching the building blocks of reality snap together in real time.
That's unbelievable.
Furthermore, he asserts that this profound access to quantum knowledge allowed him to discover a vaccine-free, frequency-based solution for the COVID-19 virus long before any physical vaccines were actually developed or available to the public.
He's claiming his mind was a better laboratory than the entire global pharmaceutical industry.
Essentially, yes.
But the integration of mathematics into his spiritual vision is what really stands out. He claims to have discovered the subquantum importance of a very specific biological ratio, 1 to 1.618.
The golden ratio.
Exactly. The golden ratio, which we see everywhere in physical reality, it dictates the spiral of a galaxy, the curve of a nautilus shell, the arrangement of leaves on a stem, and even the proportions of classic architecture and art.
But Chauhan isn't just pointing out that nature is geometrically pleasing. He's claiming that this specific ratio is the literal mathematical scalpel the Creator uses to carve out human consciousness.
A mathematical scalpel.
And this mathematical discovery supposedly led him to formulate his ultimate crowning theory, the MC theory of everything, which he quickly clarifies is actually the MC theory of consciousness, because to him, consciousness is everything.
Here is where the document takes a leap that is genuinely startling. He isn't just presenting these discoveries as abstract spiritual poetry or a personal philosophy. He's treating them as rigorous, legally defensible, hard science.
Yes, absolutely.
He introduces a concept he calls the QUCL Code of Intelligent Design. And he boldly asserts that his version of intelligent design is pure, undeniable quantum science.
He is incredibly adamant about drawing a hard line here. He states repeatedly that his QUCL code knowledge does not contain a single trace of religion. Not even one word. He insists it is beautiful science, relying on quarks, strings, and ratios, not faith.
And because he views it as hard, unassailable science, he claims it is powerful enough to overturn massive established legal precedents in the United States.
He specifically zeroes in on the U.S. Supreme Court and the Dover District trial.
Right. For those who might not remember, the Dover trial, Kitzmiller v. Dover Area School District in 2005, was a landmark case. Judge John E. Jones III ruled that teaching intelligent design in public school science classes violated the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment because intelligent design is inherently religious, essentially a rebranded form of creationism. Chauhan explicitly states his new quantum knowledge can legally set aside Judge Jones's judgment. He argues his code can be taught in schools because it enriches students with pure quantum mechanics without being a backdoor for religious doctrine.
It's an incredible claim.
Now, I have to step in here and really question the mechanics of this leap.
Okay.
The concept of the quantum code is a brilliant metaphor. Envisioning a cosmic hard drive or a universal operating system where human lives, our sins, our memories are just executable files. It is a fantastic modern way to explain karma.
It is.
But practically speaking, how does discovering a mathematical ratio while meditating in India literally translate into a legal brief that could overturn a modern federal court ruling on American educational curriculum? The leap from a purely internal meditative vision to challenging the U.S. Supreme Court is staggering.
It is a massive, almost incomprehensible leap. But understanding why he makes that leap is the key to unlocking the psychology of the entire document. You have to remember who he was before the trauma.
The surgeon.
Chauhan was a scientist, a highly trained surgeon. He fundamentally understands that in the 21st century, the ultimate arbiter of truth in society isn't the priest standing at the altar. It's the physicist standing at the chalkboard and the judge sitting on the bench.
You're right.
By aggressively using terms like quarks, 11 dimensions, and triple quantum entanglement, he is essentially trying to mathematically and legally prove the existence of the soul. He is trying to force his profound, chaotic, mystical experience into the rigid, empirical framework he was originally trained in.
He desperately wants his internal, subjective reality to be recognized and validated as objective, external, legally binding fact.
Exactly. It's a desire for universal validation. But this mathematical and quantum certainty that he feels he has achieved leads him down a very specific path. It leads him to formulate some highly rigid and frankly deeply controversial views on the destiny of nations and the fundamental structure of human demographics.
Yes, the final sections of the document take a sharp, heavy turn from abstract quantum physics into concrete geopolitics and a kind of subatomic social hierarchy. First, let's look at his claims regarding the destiny of India. Just as he claims to be the historical architect of America in a past life as Franklin, he claims an eternal, ongoing mandate over India.
He states very clearly, with no ambiguity, "I have always ruled in India and over India." He claims that in a specific past life, he was the entity who successfully threw out the Mughal Emperor Akbar from Delhi, and he believes this historical mandate hasn't expired. It supposedly carries over directly into his current life.
He writes that he was explicitly instructed by the Creator to take over complete political and spiritual control of India as its rightful ruler in the year 2010.
2010.
Then the mandate was renewed in 2014 and once more in 2016. He says he actually traveled to New Delhi in 2016 to formally assume control of the nation, but the Creator stopped him at the last minute, telling him the time wasn't right and that as scientific knowledge, this manifesto needed to be published globally first.
It is a narrative of delayed divine right. But the mechanism that supposedly enforces this destiny, and indeed enforces all human destiny according to his theory, is his redefinition of dark energy.
Dark energy.
In standard astrophysics, dark energy is a theoretical repulsive force that drives the accelerating expansion of the universe. But Chauhan repurposes the term entirely for his cosmology.
Right, in his framework, dark energy isn't just expanding space. It is a cosmic enforcer. It is the universe's hard drive and its active penal system combined. He claims dark energy keeps meticulous, infallible records of human sins across all past lives, and it actively administers punishment in the physical world based on those subatomic records.
Which brings us to the most delicate, rigid, and polarizing part of his entire quantum theory.
And as we move into this section, I want to speak directly to you, the listener. We are about to examine a part of his manifesto that is highly rigid and frankly deeply controversial regarding race and religion. Now, to be incredibly clear here, we are not validating this. We are not endorsing or supporting these views in any way. We are acting strictly as impartial guides, showing you the exact architecture of his specific, highly polarizing worldview so you can understand the full scope of the document. We're just reporting what is in the document.
Yes, it is crucial to remain objective observers here. The text presents a worldview where macro-level human differences, the things that cause conflict on Earth, are actually hard-coded into the microscopic, inescapable fabric of reality. Chauhan takes the famous line he claims to have written as Benjamin Franklin, "All men are created equal," and he adds a massive defining quantum caveat to it.
A quantum caveat.
He states that while all men are created equal in the source code, meaning at the moment of pure creation, they become qualitatively different at the quantum level once they enter the physical world. He claims the different races and religious groups of human beings literally have different grades of arrangement of subatomic particles within their consciousness.
He is creating a literal subatomic hierarchy of humanity. The document explicitly claims that Hindus and Muslims are not the same, and that Muslims and Christians are not the same.
Right.
He asserts that these differences aren't cultural or historical, they are quantum. He claims these different groups actually take births at different specific times in a massive worldly cycle. A cyclical timeline, he says, is depicted by the swastika symbol in ancient Indian tradition.
He even extends this subatomic critique to modern Western civilization, stating specifically that Americans have become more physical and less spiritual and even less quantum.
Less quantum. I really want you to pause and think about the sheer weight of what he is proposing here. How do you react to the idea of a universe where a person's destiny, their racial background, their religious affiliation, and their ultimate spiritual worth are allegedly hard-coded into the arrangement of their subatomic particles before they are even born?
It's a heavy concept.
The intense, inescapable rigidity of this proposed reality is striking. It leaves absolutely no room for sociological evolution, personal fluidity, or cultural exchange. Everything is fixed at a level smaller than a single atom by an inflexible cosmic design.
This raises a profoundly important question about the nature of grand unified theories created by isolated individuals. When someone attempts to build a theory of everything based purely on internal personal revelation, we almost always see their deeply held personal beliefs, their cultural backgrounds, and their macro-level geopolitical biases inextricably intertwined with their new cosmology.
Right.
The universe they discover inside their own minds almost always reflects and ultimately justifies their specific perspective on the external world. Chauhan's quantum hierarchy seems to be a cosmic, subatomic projection of terrestrial borders and historical human conflicts.
It is a fascinating, if deeply unsettling, example of how the human mind desperately tries to organize chaos. Think about what he survived. He survived total obliterating chaos, the violent loss of his prestigious identity, his massive wealth, his home, and for 9 years, his very mind.
Yeah.
And in response to that trauma, he rebuilt a universe where absolutely nothing is chaotic. A universe where everything, down to the spin of a single quark, is perfectly, rigidly categorized, recorded by dark energy, and explained by his code.
And having mapped out this incredible, expansive, rigid universe from his past lives as world leader signing treaties, to the intricate mechanics of 11-dimensional cosmos, to the subatomic hierarchy of humanity, the document finally takes a breath. It steps back. We return to the man who survived the 14 years of relentless pain and the subsequent 16 years of frantic scientific discovery.
We return to the quiet human element. Because after 32 years of this grueling, epic journey, from a wealthy London surgeon to a homeless beggar to a cosmic architect dictating the laws of the universe, the story grounds itself in a very simple, very relatable reality.
He notes in the text that during his absolute lowest point in India, when he was broken, hot, and lost, a real-life angel walked into his life. He describes the person who helped him, who grounded him when he was untethered from reality, and who eventually became his wife.
After all the breathless talk of triple quantum entanglement, 11 dimensions, and ruling nations, it's a simple human relationship, a grounded connection. That seems to be the thing that actually brings him back from the brink of complete, unrecoverable isolation.
It's a highly poignant conclusion to a chaotic text. When we synthesize the totality of this document, you are left with the choice of how to view it, whether one views it as literal, groundbreaking cosmic truth, a profound but misunderstood spiritual awakening, or an elaborate, incredibly intricate psychological fortress constructed solely to cope with immense trauma and the total loss of identity. It is impossible not to be struck by the sheer, stubborn resilience of Dr. Mukesh Chauhan. This manifesto is a towering, sprawling monument of human imagination. It showcases the relentless, desperate search for meaning when all conventional physical markers of meaning have been violently obliterated.
And that brings us directly back to you listening to this right now. I want to ask you a question based on everything we've explored in Chauhan's world today. How do you process the unexplainable, the chaotic, the unfair moments in your own life? We all have moments that don't fit the neat timeline society expects of us.
We certainly do.
But more importantly, imagine if you went home today and everything you own, everything you have achieved, every piece of paper that proves your status in society was gone, thrown away, erased. What is the core identity you are left with when the physical evidence of your life is removed?
It is the ultimate, terrifying question of self. Are you your job title, your mortgage, your degrees? Or are you something else entirely, something that survives the loss of the physical?
I want to leave you with one final, provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day. Let's play within Chauhan's reality for just a second. If it were true that all of our past lives, all of our hidden actions, our triumphs and our sins, were truly permanently recorded in an invisible quantum code surrounding us right now.
Imagine that.
If you were handed the key to access that code and read your own cosmic history, how would knowing your true source code change the way you live your life tomorrow?
Would that knowledge bring you absolute clarity and peace? Or would the weight of all your past lives be a burden far too heavy for one human mind to carry?
At the start of this deep dive, we talked about how comforting the clean, jagged white line of an X-ray is when you break a bone. It shows you exactly what is wrong, right there in black and white, easy to diagnose and easy to cast. But maybe the human experience isn't meant to be read like an X-ray.
Maybe not.
Maybe it's meant to be as complex, as chaotic, and as deeply, frustratingly mysterious as the universe itself. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious out there.